Good morning? Is it still morning? Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Twist Gaming. We are here live at Gen Con 2018, and I am here with Justin from Restoration Games. Now, Justin, you have a bunch of new releases coming out for games, and then you made one really big announcement during Gen Con. So let's talk about the new releases first,
Okay.
and then we'll dive into the new announcement that I'm sure everybody's really excited to hear more about.
Sure. So the game that we released at Gen Con, it's actually pre-release. The street date is September 8th, but we had a few copies flown in. Is Dinosaur Tea Party, which I'm repping right here. T-shirt designed by our own Jason Taylor.
Like a sir.
Yeah, it's a game 65 million years in the brewing, and basically it's based. So for people who don't know, I'm the president of Restoration Games, and what we do is we take old out-of-print mass-market games from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s maybe, and modernize them and bring them back for today's gamer.
You've had a couple of recent hits, a couple of games that kind of gained some traction and some attention.
So one of our first games was Downforce. That's doing very well, racing game. But then, of course, we did Fireball Island, which we just had a very big Kickstarter for. Thank you to all our backers. And so let's get this right out of the way. The most important question, no matter where I am, everybody wants to know. Yes, we are still on time for fulfillment in November, so everything's on schedule.
Don't worry. I saw that JR had taken the box for Fireball Island around the case as he was doing the road tour for Fireball
Right.
Island, and he had a bunch of signatures on the box, and we saw that at Dice Tower Con.
Yeah.
And for the Vassal Charity Fund, they had run... I want to say $900 is what the box went for.
So funny story. Yeah, so for people who don't know, this was when we were doing the Kickstarter for Fireball Island. And normally when you're doing a Kickstarter, you like to send out a bunch of copies so people can play it and get the word out. And because of the unique nature of that game, the 3D Plastic Island, we couldn't do that. We had literally one copy that was like, $8,000. And so we had this big tactical plastic black case to wheel it around in, and Jared's, why don't I just drive it around and take it on a road trip and let people play it? And it seemed like a great idea, so we said, why not? And then we sort of had the idea afterwards, we have this big case that it's in, let's let people who play it sign it, and people who won put a star on it, and there's hundreds of people played it with 30 days and 30 cities, and a bunch of designers signed it, Eric Lang and media people, Tom Vassell, and all these people. Friedman Free signed it in green, of course.
That's his color.
And yeah, it's signature color. So at the end of the thing, as it was getting to a close, I saw the case with all the signatures on it, and I knew we were going to be at the Dice Tower Con, and the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund auction is something we always like to participate in. And I said, we should auction this off. So everybody was like, yeah, that's great. And Jared was like, yeah, I guess so. He was really disappointed because he spent all this time with it. This was like a huge time investment that he did, a lot of work he put into it, and it was really impressive. And so we had this idea shortly afterwards, but we didn't tell him. And so what we did is we went to the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund auction, and we were sort of waiting and letting people bid on it. And I think it had gotten up to like $400 or something like that. And then I had Suzanne, who's on our team. I said, basically, whatever it gets to, just go over the top and we'll bid on it ourselves.
It had gotten pretty high.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed with how quickly and people were really interested in it.
So Suzanne ended up bidding $900 so that we got it and gave it back to JR, so he's got it now and he can remember that time in his life. So
That's so awesome.
we helped out the charity and we got to make JR feel pretty good too. So it was a win-win for us.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. That's really cool. So Fireball Island is on track for release for November.
Right. So we're looking at Black Friday street date for it. So it should be in stores in time if you need to pick it up for a holiday present. And we are looking to actually have copies at PAX Unplugged. So if you're going to PAX Unplugged, you should be able to pick it up there. Again, everything's on schedule. I mean, you never know. There could be a typhoon or something. Someone might anger
Everything is
Poseidon.
subject
I
to.
don't know. But as long as the boats get over on time, we should be okay.
Now we've got
Yeah.
Dinosaur Tea Party.
Yeah, and then we've got Dinosaur Tea Party. Its street date is September 8th. It's a $20 game based on a 1976 game called Who's It? So Who's It itself is similar to Guess Who, which we've all played, where the little flip down people when you're asking, "Are you wearing a hat?" Are you wearing glasses? And the thing about the game Who's It is, it was interesting. It had these quirks, and that was what we sort of liked about it, and it was multiplayer. So we thought that'd be a neat game to try and bring back. We went and started working on the game, and immediately, so the first time I played it, I played it. I opened it up and took a look, and then I played it with my kids, and I said, just so you know, the game's like there's a little bit racist. Let's just put it out there.
Yeah.
Because it's 1976, you have these very uncomfortable stereotypes. The are you Oriental, and the genius is the white guy, and the black guy is the rock star, and just sort of uncomfortable.
Right.
So we started by trying to figure out how we can have people and reassign the traits and things like that. And there's no way to slice up human beings into traits and not have it become uncomfortable. And that was when Rob Davio, my partner and the chief restoration officer of Restoration Games, he said, well, I've had this name in search of a game, basically. It was Dinosaur Tea Party. And as soon as he said it, we're all like, oh, that's perfect. So we commissioned some sort of preview art and have like dinosaurs and fancy hats and things like that, and it worked out perfectly.
That's awesome.
So basically the gist is that we're all dinosaurs at this fancy tea party, but unfortunately due to our walnut-sized brains, we've forgotten everybody's name. And so you have, rather than just come right out and ask, that would be very gauche. You just say, oh, are you wearing a hat? And so part of the game is doing an outrageous and awful British accent.
We're proper dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. Are you eating anything? And the answer would be yes or no. And then as you guess who people are, if you guess correctly, that you get a sugar cube. That's how we keep score. They look like resource cubes, but I promise they're sugar cubes.
Just don't eat them.
Yeah. And whoever gets to 3 wins. Now, and then the thing that Who's It had that we brought back in were this idea of these quirks. And so what it is at the beginning of the game, there are 3 quirks that are randomly assigned to the 20 dinosaurs. And one of the quirks is always lies, one is always says no, and one is switches answers. And so if you get one of the quirks, rather than answering truthfully, are you wearing a hat? If you were wearing a hat, but you had the quirk always says no, you would still say no. And so as you're answering the questions, you need to sort of figure out, is this person always saying no because I'm asking bad questions, or are they actually Kenneth, who has the always says no? And so it's a light game. It's 20 minutes. Like I said, 7 and up, $20 game. The art is fantastic. As artist Matejos, and I always do very poorly with the last name. It's Gelisabrasi, I think. I might have messed that up. But anyway, certainly close. I apologize, Matejos. He's an excellent artist.
Okay.
So the art is great if you want to check it out.
Awesome. And that's going to come out September?
September 8th is the street date. We did have some at the show, but yeah, it'll be out September 8th.
Very cool. And
Should
now,
be in Barnes & Noble, too. So,
same date?
At least, yeah, if not sooner.
Very, very cool.
Whenever they can process it.
So the question that's on everybody's mind right now, or the tell me more, Dark Tower.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a game, obviously. So if you go to our website right now, restorationgames.com, right at the top, there's a little place you can fill in. What game would you like us to bring back and why? And so we've been getting suggestions since we started the company.
Fireball Island used to be one of those very, very popular suggestions.
Fireball Island was number 1, so now it's off the list. And now we are sort of working our way down the list. We look at all the suggestions. One of the other big suggestions we always got was Dark Tower. And if I'm being perfectly honest, that was sort of more in my wheelhouse. I'm a little bit too old for Fireball Island, if I have to admit.
Okay, so I'm Fireball Island.
Yeah.
When you tell me Dark Tower, the first thing I'm thinking of is Stephen King's book series, Dark Tower.
Totally unrelated.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, no, that comes up quite a bit. It's actually just a standalone game. It's a fantasy setting. It was like the hot game for Christmas in 1982. It was like there's this great commercial. Do yourself a favor and Google Dark Tower board game commercial. Otherwise, you'll get the movie commercials. Orson Welles did this, he's this Shakespearean actor, did this fantastic ad where he's talking about mustering his armies and defeating evil, and it's just super weird, but a lot of fun. So that is the game, and obviously the main thing about that game, so the game itself is you're getting warriors, and you're fighting brigands, and you're running around trying to get keys, and then you go in the castle. And it all sounds very pedestrian, nice fantasy setting. But there's this tower in the middle of the table, this big electrical tower. And that was what just blew everybody's
So what does
mind
the
back
tower
then.
do?
It's like about a foot tall,
Yeah.
and it handles the game. It sort of acts as like an electronic GM for the game. So if you're when you move, you tell you where you move. So if you're going to the bazaar, you can buy stuff, and you can even haggle, and you push the haggle button, and it'll tell you if
Really?
like it'll lower the price or if you offended the merchant and therefore he won't sell to you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and there's this little thing at the end of the game where you have to get the keys and put them in the right order. It's like a little mini game of Mastermind to get into the castle. And it had the great, so it rotated around. It had this like great grinding gear sound and had these awesome 8-bit sound effects and played all this music. Like when you went into the bazaar, it was dee 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 dee, like little 8-bit sounds. Or if you die, it would be dan 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 dan. You know,
It's the
I could
worst
probably
sound.
do
It
more
makes me
sounds,
wanna
but I
cry.
won't bother. But so that was the thing, right? Is like at the time there was nothing like this. So for us, whenever we're looking at a restoration, we always look at what is the thing that everyone remembers about the game, the soul of that game, the thing that gets everybody excited. Take everything else away and turn that up to 11, make it the star, put a spotlight on it, and then build a good game around it that integrates with that. And so, for example, Fireball Island, it was the tower and the marbles and all that. So we made the island bigger, made Volcar have 3 mouths instead of just one and all that stuff. And so it's the same thing here. And so one of the questions we've been getting a lot is, you're going to put an app and the tower could hold your phone and all this stuff. But that's not exciting. Everybody has a phone and we all have apps and there's
Right.
plenty of computer games. So it's not a computer game that you're just putting in the tower.
Right.
What we're doing is, and we'll probably have some app integration because we want to leverage that technology. And what we're really trying to do is like push the limits of what a board game can do technologically from a physical standpoint,
Okay.
not make a computer game that happens to play on the table.
Right.
And so we're really looking at that tower as saying we have this space that we want to fill with something that will give people this sense of wonderment that they would have, the same sense of wonderment that they had in
Because in
1982.
1982, the idea
Exactly.
of there being a structure that you can interact with in that way, something especially like a haggle, where it's not like press a button and get a constant result back,
Right.
something that's going to change, was very different.
Yep.
So, but in today's in today's technology, that's run of the mill.
Right.
You've got a computer in your hand. So how do you match that same level of wonderment?
Well, that's what we're doing right now. So we're working with toy designers who have vast experience in that sort of thing. We're working on looking at certain technologies and figuring out how we can leverage those. So, things like lights and motors and all kinds of stuff to actually have it do something. And the idea is that the one major change that we know, we're working on the gameplay too, and that's coming along. I should mention one of the other big half of the announcement, by the way, is that this game we're co-designing. So Rob is the lead designer on this. He's co-designing with Isaac Childress, who designed Gloomhaven.
Yes, Gloomhaven. Yes.
So they're working together, and obviously we know the game's going to be great.
And with somebody with Isaac
Right.
Childress who's got Gloomhaven, your theme is in good hands.
Right. So we're working on making it a little bit heavier than something like a Fireball Island, but we want to figure out how to integrate that into the tower and sort of just. So the one big change I was going to say is the original game was competitive. It was a race to see who could get into the tower and defeat the bad guy. And so what we're looking to do now is to make it cooperative because the tower is so much stronger, so much more challenging that that's the real villain. And so to do that, we have to make the tower have character and be a character. And so we have to give it sort of almost a personality. And that's what we're working on right now.
That's really exciting. Justin, thank you so much for coming on stream and giving us more of an in-depth look at this announcement for the restoration of Dark Tower.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to see Dragon. I want to put a dragon on everything. So Dinosaur Tea Party.
We get that a lot.
And again, Fireball Island is on track for delivery.
Yes,
so
indeed.
This is very exciting. Thank you so much,
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate
really
it.
appreciate it. For those of us, for my audience at home, where do they find out more, not only about the Dark Tower announcement, but anything else that Restoration Games has going on?
So our website is restorationgames.com. You can also sign up for our newsletter there. We don't send it out a lot, and we try to sort of keep it for big, important announcements. And then pretty active on social media, especially Twitter. I'm not so great at Facebook. I try, but my heart's there, but I'm not as good at Twitter, though. I'm on all the time, so it's a good way to interact with me. I always answer questions and talk to the people who are interested in our stuff. Love to talk to everybody. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Justin, and thank you all. Stay tuned as our day-long coverage of Gen Con 2018 continues.